Sukha, Perek Mishnah Zayin. We mentioned in the previous Mishnah that the Kohanim were split into 24 watches, 24 mishmaros, 24 groups. And we also mentioned that each group, the Kohanim of that group, were on duty in the Beis HaMikdash for 1 week, and then the next group would join and take over. The day they changed was on Shabbos. We also mentioned that on Yom Tov, on Sukkot, all the mishmaros had a right to participate in the korbanos for Yom Tov. This Mishnah continues and says, Bishleisha parokim b'shana. There were 3 periods in the year, the Sholosh Regalim, Hoyukol Mishmaros Shavis, where all the Mishmaros were equal in their rights to participate in the bringing the korbanos, but Eimure Regalim, with those prescribed parts that have to be offered up, specifically for the Yom Tov, for the Regalim. And what were the specifics? We mentioned some in the previous Mishnah. The communal offerings, specifically relevant for the Yom Tov. There were also personal korbanos that were brought specially for Yom Tov. Oilas Re'iyah, and Oila for coming to the Beis HaMikdash. Shalmei Chagiga, Shlomim, peace offerings, personal, individual offerings that were specific to Yom Tov. Those korbanos, all the mishmaros had rights to participate in the avodah of those korbanos. Also, bechiluk lechem haponim. The lechem haponim was the show bread. There were 12 breads. In fact, they were matzah, unleavened. There were 12 breads. They were also changed every Shabbos. And normally they would be divided between the incoming and outgoing mishmar. They would divide up the lechem haponim, those 12 breads, and they would consume them and eat them. However, if there was a Shabbos during Yom Tov, then the lechem haponim will also be divided amongst all the mishmaros. Bechiluk lechem haponim. Continues the Mishnah. Ba'atzeres, on Shavuos, there was also the shtei halechem, 2 breads. These were chometz. Was also a further communal offering that was offered up. So Ba'atzeres, as it was specific for the Yom Tov, for Shavuos, this would be divided again amongst all the mishmaros. Ba'atzeres, on Shavuos, Omrim lo, they would say to each kohen who wanted to eat from the Atzeres, would be the special, the shtei halechem, part of the 2 breads, but also there was the lechem haponim, if it was a Shabbos. Omrim lo, they would say to every kohen, Heilech matzah, here's a piece of the matzah from the lechem haponim, Heilech chometz, and here is a piece of the chometz from the shtei halechem. In other words, they had the rights to both the lechem haponim, the showbread, and the shtei halechem. And as Tosfos Yom Tov points out from the Gemara, they would say, here's a piece of matzah first, because the matzah was from the lechem haponim, and we have a general rule, todeh ushe'eno todeh, todeh kodim, whatever comes more frequently is first. And here the lechem haponim every week is brought, whereas the shtei halechem is particularly relevant for Shavuos. So heilech matzah, heilech chometz. Continues the Mishnah. The mishmar shizmano kavua, that watch that had a fixed time, which was that week they were on duty, and it happened to be Yom Tov too, Mishmar shezmano kavua hu makriv tomidim. It would be up to that mishmar to offer up the tomidim, the tomid, the lamb in the morning and lamb in the afternoon, because that's not specific to Yom Tov. That's because they were on duty that week. So over Yom Tov too, they would offer up the tomidim, nedorim and nedovis. If people over Yom Tov, perhaps Chol HaMoed, were bringing a neder on a nedava, a personal neder on a nedava, a free will offering. A neder is when a person said he wants to bring a korban. A nedava is where a person would be very specific and say, he wants to bring that particular animal as a korban. But again, it's got nothing to do with Yom Tov. So therefore, if these people brought these animals, let's say in Chol HaMoed, then again, it would be the mishmar that was on duty that week that would offer up those korbanos. Ush'ar korbanos tzibur, other communal offerings not relevant to the Yom Tov, for example, the Musaf on Shabbos, that would also be brought by the mishmar which was fixed for that week. Umakriv esakol, it will also offer up everything. What does that come to include? Says the Bartanura, there were further offerings that were brought really for the community to ensure that the Mizbeach was in constant use. If there was a time that nobody was bringing korbanos, and off time, they would still bring oilos to ensure that the Mizbeach was in constant use. Those oilos, they're called kayitz la Mizbeach, like dessert. After the main course, if there was time, no korbanos are actually being brought, then these oilos would be brought from communal funds. Again, those oilos would be brought and offered by the mishmar, the watch that was on duty that week. We mentioned about the lechem haponim, that if it was a Shabbos, and it was also Yom Tov, then all the mishmaros would have rights to have some of that lechem haponim. The Mishnah concludes, Yom Tov hasomuch l'Shabbos. If Yom Tov was near to Shabbos, bein milfoneha, prior to the Shabbos, let's say the last day of Yom Tov was on a Friday, bein la'achreha, whether the Yom Tov came after the Shabbos, because the Yom Tov was starting on a Sunday, hoyukol hamishmores Shabbos, those people who wanted to be there for the Yom Tov, those Kohanim who wanted to participate, and we said all the mishmaros were able to participate on Yom Tov. They, for example, if Yom Tov finished on the Friday, they wanted to be there for the whole of Yom Tov. They therefore couldn't go home the following day because it was Shabbos. Similarly, if Yom Tov started on the Sunday and these Kohanim wanted to be there for the beginning of Yom Tov, they would have to come on Friday prior to the Shabbos because they couldn't travel on the Shabbos. Therefore, because of that, concludes the Mishnah, Hoyukol ha-mishmaros Shabbos, all the mishmaros were equal rights, bechiluk lechem haponim, in dividing up the lechem haponim, the showbread, on that Shabbos, which was either the day after Yom Tov, or it was the day before the Yom Tov commenced. All the Kohanim, all the mishmaros would have rights in the lechem haponim of that particular Shabbos, although it wasn't Shabbos and Yom Tov together. It was either the day before Yom Tov started or the day after the Yom Tov concluded. That concludes it.